Welcome to the podcast, Dimple Tharkar.
Thank you so
Before,
much for having me.
oh, my pleasure. Yeah, before we jump into it, I do have some things I want to talk about. First, I'll just leave it to you if you want to just quickly or just introduce yourself, anything you feel is important for the audience to know about you, and just what you're all about.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So, I think the main thing the audience needs to know about me is that my life's work is what I've lived, what I've absolutely lived, the whole anxiety with every step of every period, season of my life. And so, yeah, let's leave it there and let's go deeper as we,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Well, a lot of our audience are people that are struggling with anxiety. They want to be more confident. And a
Mm,
lot of people, a lot of their goals are really, and they want this confidence so that they can attract a relationship, attract a romantic
mm,
relationship.
mm.
And I know that's a lot of your work is around relationships and self
Yeah,
trust, even attracting relationships. So why don't we kind of break it down into kind of three, if we could, phases. First, if somebody wants to build their confidence, build their authenticity, then the next step is how to attract from that place, attract a partner. And then finally, once they have a partner, the work is not done there. How do you make a relationship very successful? So why don't we
sure.
just start from the beginning? If somebody is struggling with confidence and wants to be more authentic, um, yeah, like how would you help somebody if somebody was struggling with confidence and they came to you?
It's a great question. It's something that honestly doesn't happen so often with my clients now. I tend to work with really successful entrepreneurs. However,
Mhm,
what's interesting is that where they may be confident in one area of their lives, they aren't necessarily aware of how to solve the problems in the other areas, romantic areas in particular. So
mhm,
they keep continuing the same cycles over and over again. So the first piece is
mhm,
awareness. What is the actual
mhm,
problem, right? What are we actually dealing with? And often it is revealed that they haven't the skills that they were taught, that nobody's taught relationship skills at school. And then the second piece is um, they don't like to admit it, but confidence is an issue in terms of intimacy, in terms of connection, in terms of, and the biggest piece in terms of vulnerability in this
mhm.
area,
Yeah.
getting really clear on their feelings. And so I would say the first step when I work with somebody is very much around what is the real problem here? Because often they'll come and say it's the other partner.
Mm,
And actually, the real problem is, are you connecting with your feelings? Are you even aware of your feelings? Are you even sure what it is you want?
mm,
Right. And
right.
that's when we'll reveal that sometimes confidence is an issue there, or lack of information, or lack of awareness. So it's that first step with anything and everything, right?
Yeah,
Awareness. What's
absolutely.
the real deal?
Yeah. And how
Mhm.
would you help somebody? You mentioned vulnerability.
Mm,
Before we help somebody to, because I completely agree. I think relationships with anything, authenticity, confidence, vulnerability is a key part of it. Before I even jump into how to help people to be more vulnerable, I think a lot of people are confused with the what the word vulnerable is. So just to make sure everyone's on
mm,
the same page, how would you
yeah,
describe vulnerability?
yeah. This is so cool because vulnerability, I would say, and what I've experienced in myself with my own relationship and with the people I've helped over the years, it's not what you think. It's not
Mm,
like um exposing yourself per se in the way people think. It's actually more about being honest with where you're at. Not from a you make me feel this way, but from a I'm feeling this way right now. Right? Taking full responsibility of it, actually
mm,
being open with your heart and actually saying, this is what's going on for me right now.
mm,
And this happens, and certainly in my relationship all the time. This morning, I had a conversation with my husband, and we woke up and we said our good mornings. And then he said, you know, I was really upset yesterday before we went to bed.
Mm,
And that has taken some work for us to get to this point, right? Where he can say that without me being triggered
mm,
and me being able to have this open space for him to actually express how he feels safely. And that's the
yeah.
piece, right? This whole safety piece. You have to feel safe to be vulnerable. Where do we where do we access that safety? We often think it's with somebody else, but the truth is you have to feel safe enough in yourself to be able to go. Even if that other person can't hold me in safety right now, I've got me.
Hmm.
I can handle
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
And so even the conversation this morning when he said, I went to bed really upset with what happened last night. And there wasn't anything major that happened, just the circumstances of events. The detail is irrelevant. It's more about the open conversation we then had, right? Okay, tell me about them.
Mm,
And then it was into, because I didn't get defensive, because I didn't try and um, defend my position, I was more in curiosity about why is he upset? Let me understand his friend, the world.
yeah.
I didn't actually have to fix anything or do anything
Hmm.
because the conversation ended with him saying, I'm going to think on why I was upset. What was that triggered me?
Yeah.
And I said, that's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
the
It's
work
fair.
right there,
Very beautiful. Yeah.
right?
Beautiful that
But
you guys
that's taken,
have that
but
space.
that has taken, like, we've been together 36 years now. We've been married, it'll
Mm,
be 30 years this year. We went to Tony Robbins because we did not have that communication. We were on the brink of divorce, right? It was quite bad,
mm, yeah.
constantly triggering each other and volatile because we didn't know what we didn't know.
Mm,
We didn't know how to access our feelings. We didn't know how to be vulnerable. We didn't know how to speak
yeah.
it.
So what did it look like before you had this open communication? Like what did your relationship look
Oh
like? What did
my,
your communication look like?
oh, that conversation would never have happened. I would have been triggered. Well, it's not
Mm,
my fault you're upset. And what's wrong
mm,
with you? Why would you be upset? Like, I
mm,
told you I was coming into the room when you were meditating. You should be able to meditate without any noise, the whole point of meditation is you can do it anywhere and everywhere. And it would
mm,
all be an attack on what's wrong with you, right? As
yeah.
opposed to, okay, let's learn together because we're and it would be, the relationship would be him against me. There
Mm,
would be no teamwork per se, whereas now we work to us, the
mm,
relationship, right?
yeah.
That's the difference. The focus has shifted.
Mm.
And we
It's like
accept that we get it
uncovering the
wrong,
truth.
right? And we accept. I sometimes lose my rag. He sometimes loses rag. It's not always perfect,
Yeah. Hmm.
but we give each other grace. Right? Okay. And like, I was thinking when he said that he was upset, I was like, well, how many times have I been so upset in that same situation, but reversed? What would I want from him? Would I
Mm,
want him to defend himself, or would I want him to just listen and let me work through it? Right?
yeah.
Because we're not perfect. None of us don't
Hmm.
want to be either, right? So,
So it sounds like now you give each other space to just share openly without the other person have to worry about how the other person may be triggered. It's kind of just owning what you feel and just sharing,
y-
just fully owning it and sharing.
yes. Yeah. And I love what you said there, Alex, about not worrying about the other person being triggered. That was something that used to bother me a lot. I used to get really upset that he was triggered, and I would avoid speaking my truth for fear of him being triggered because I would take that as a personal
Mm,
responsibility of mine.
yeah.
And actually, now I can sit in the comfort that he can handle his trigger.
Mm, yeah.
Like, I don't need to mother him, he can handle it. And he can also handle my truth. Because
Yeah.
even in that conversation, I still expressed how I felt about the situation.
And has
But
this vulnerability, like, has it, because obviously you worked through your relationship with him, is this translated also in how you interact with others without
mm,
having to feel responsibility of just owning your truth?
100%. I think the hardest relationship that it happened, the last and the hardest was with him because he's my intimate, he's like the
Mhm.
most important person for me, right?
Yeah.
And then my children, like learning because they trigger you that they're connected to your heart the deepest,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So then with my children, but in my work, absolutely, in my interactions with my family, everything has
Mhm.
shifted. I was able to forgive my father. I was able to um, have a much healthier relationship with my sisters.
Mhm.
Not that they had to change anything, they didn't. I
Mhm.
just had to shift who I was. And they had the invitation to also shift with
Mm.
free will. Sometimes they
Yeah.
did, sometimes they didn't, sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. And how are you able to make that shift to be vulnerable and just own your truth and not, you know, not be so worried about what, you might still be worried about what other people think, but you still say it anyways. How are you able to make that shift?
It's a
Was it a
great
belief
question.
change or yeah, what do you think it was?
Um, it was deciding that I'm not responsible for anybody else's feelings other than my own,
Mm.
and also trusting in everybody else's power to handle the truth,
Mm. Yeah.
right? I stopped mothering everybody. It wasn't my
Mm.
responsibility. And that comes from being an empath, from being very small and taking on everybody's shit. And sometimes, and a lot of the times, not even knowing whether it's mine or theirs, right? How
Mhm.
many times do you
Yeah.
feel something and you're going, why am I feeling this? Why am I suddenly feeling anxious? And
Mhm.
I realize
Yeah.
that it's my daughter's or it's my
Mm.
husband's, right? So
Mm.
it's that whole belief on not everything I feel is necessarily mine. And if it is, how do I determine what's mine and what's theirs?
Mm.
So and then
Yeah.
the other piece, the belief that my safety isn't sourced from anybody else. It's sourced from me.
Mm.
I get to choose whether I feel safe or not in an environment or a place.
Mm. And how do you create that safety within yourself?
Tell myself I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. When
Mm.
I'm in
Like
those triggered moments,
affirming.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I hug myself and tap.
Mm. Ah, okay. Hug
I
yourself
actually
and
go,
tap.
I'm okay. There's no
Mm.
saber-toothed tiger coming to get me. I am safe. I have chosen a safe life. I'm okay. This is just
Mm.
old childhood stuff. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm. Beautiful. And you mentioned with part of being vulnerable is, sharing how you feel, sharing your truth. And one struggle people have is they're not even sure what they feel. Like you said, sometimes
Exactly.
they're not sure if this feeling is, I mean, I don't think most people think this feeling isn't mine, but I don't think people are that maybe as aware that feelings can come from other people. But oftentimes a lot of people just in general aren't sure what they feel. And they can't communicate that because they just don't know what they feel and what
Mm,
that truth is.
mm,
So how would
mm.
you help people to connect with their feelings and emotions?
So this is a great question. It took me a long time to figure this out. And the first thing that I realize is when I don't know what I'm feeling, I just say that to myself. I don't beat
Mm,
myself up. I just go, I have no idea what this feeling is, but I'm feeling it.
mm, right. Just being aware there's something you're feeling, just this feeling, some
Something.
sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I try and I don't try, I now do it, but then I was trying to locate it in my body.
Mm, yeah.
Where is this feeling in my body right now? Because it sits in your body.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in your body. It could be in your head, your heart, your stomach, your throat,
Yeah.
right? And then I take myself on a process where I start to identify it. And I do this with my clients as well. It's a deeper process, but I basically identify it and decide what its message is and
Hmm.
whether I want it or not. What I have learned to do is not compound the feeling. So what I mean by that is I'm feeling really angry right now. I shouldn't be feeling angry. So I compound the anger with guilt
Mm.
and shame. And then I
Yeah.
get angry with myself for feeling guilt and shame. So there's compounded with anger. Then I feel more guilt and shame because I'm angry with myself for feeling guilt and shame. Then I feel even more anger, right? So I don't compound anymore. And
Mm.
we do this all the time. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be feeling that. Why am I upset with him? Why am I upset with them? They're my children. I shouldn't, right? Shoulds. When shoulds come in, that's a compound.
Right.
And so what I tend to do is be aware, okay, wait. The feeling itself without a story is clean. I can handle that feeling. I can
Yeah.
handle the discomfort. I can allow it to pass through me.
Yeah. Just allowing
But
it to be, accepting it.
yeah, accepting it. Because the shoulds and the compounding just basically makes it sticky then. Just sticks in
Yeah.
your body.
Mm. Yeah. It's like what Tony says, what would you resist persists.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do a similar process when I'm feeling something, especially when it's, maybe I'm feeling frustration with a friend or one of my past partners. I would locate it in my body and, feel the texture of it, feel the color of it, the shape of it,
Yes.
and ask
Yes.
like if it had a voice, what would it say? And it's really amazing how it there's always usually some voice that comes from it. And the key has always been not trying to be logical about it because a lot of times the emotion it doesn't exactly make sense. I mean,
It's no
in its
logic.
yeah, in its own way, it makes sense. In its own world, it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. But from our view, it doesn't make sense. But you're just allowing it to come up and allowing it to speak. And a lot of the times, it just wants to be heard and listened to.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
usually, almost all the time, that's the main thing it wants is just to be seen. And
Yeah.
how do
So we,
you? I'm curious. Well, I have my process, but I'm curious. Let's say you feel some anger, frustration, resentment, and then you're able to see to connect with it. How do you share that with another person? Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people
so
struggle
I'll,
with.
I'll tell you a story that what I used to do with my youngest child. She's a deep empath, and
Mhm.
so
And how
she
old is
when
she?
she's now 20, but at the
Okay.
time she was about 3, maybe 2, and she
Hmm.
would have these outbursts. And it was purely I didn't realize then, but I do now. It was purely overwhelm of all the energy that she was taking from everybody else. So
Mm,
she would just have this outburst. And so I used this technique with her where I would get her to describe it. What color is it? Where is it in your
mm.
body?
Wow,
What
that's for
shape is
yourself.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah, what
so
shape
cool.
is it? Right? Because I studied NLP something like, gosh, must be nearly 30 years now. So that was
Mm,
me using the NLP submodalities, right? Very similar to Tony's
mm,
methodologies. And so I said to her, what shape is it? Where is it? And she would locate it. And I would say, take it out of your body. Let's look at it.
mm,
Right. So I would help her disassociate with it.
mm,
And children are so good at this because they don't need logic.
mm.
They
Wow.
know. Right. So she would describe this as this angry green monster. Right.
Mm,
And she would literally could see it in front of her.
wow.
Right.
That's so
And as
cool.
soon as she disassociated with it and brought it in front of her, she felt her body just relax, right?
Mm,
And so we'd have a
wow.
conversation with this monster and we'd say to him, what color would you like to be? How can we make it fun,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
and change it to rainbow and unicorn and all the things that would help her calm down and regulate. And she ended up using this methodology herself because it would help her, even though she didn't have the words for what she was feeling, it would help her manage her feelings, right? And so,
Wow. Yeah.
right? And so you don't need to know the words. Your body knows. She knew it
Mm.
was in the pit of her solar plexus. It was right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, because kids generally are not going to judge the emotion, right? They're just going to speak it. That's so cool. I feel like that's something that should be taught to all kids, and especially if they can develop it at that age, they're just going to be a pro at just like
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, communication. Yeah, that's so amazing. Next time
She,
I talk to a kid that's getting emotional, I'm gonna try this. I used to, I would have, I mean, instinctively, I would imagine that a kid wouldn't understand how to do this, but the way you explained it actually makes sense that the opposite is true. That kids will intuitively know how to do this.
yes. And especially at a young age. Like
Hmm.
my youngest now, she's 20, and her emotional intelligence is unbelievable. The number of times she has actually said, like my husband and I, we went through a very rough patch as she was growing up. And she would be the one to turn around and say, stop.
Mm.
This is this. Dad's feeling this, and you're feeling this, Mum. And that's really
Wow.
what's happening.
Wow. How old was
Right?
she at that time, too?
Probably about, let's say 10, 12.
Wow.
Right?
Amazing. I guess props to having a mother like you that's teaching her all these tools.
Yes. Well, thank you. And also her father. We are a great team together. We're opposites. We're opposites.
Mm,
So, and we actually, it's interesting. You said you started Tony Robbins at Date with Destiny. Was it
mm.
Australia? Was it Australia?
Is in Florida.
In Florida. Okay.
Yep.
So, because during my plat year, I did the one in Florida, but I also did the one in Australia, and we took the girls with us. So that was their
Mhm.
first ever personal development event. They hadn't been to any
Oh,
other,
cool.
right? And at the time,
Awesome.
Kira had it was her 14th birthday the first day. So Tony actually came off the stage to wish her happy birthday. And
Beautiful.
and Maya was 19. So yeah, so it's been a collective thing where we've introduced them to a different way of schooling, right? A different,
Yeah. Wow. I'm sure kids have a very bright future.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing.
Thank you.
And you mentioned that you and your partner are opposites in ways.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to speak about the feminine and masculine energy, but before that, what did you mean you guys were opposites, and how does that work in your relationship?
So when we first got together, I was very much wanting to control everything, and he's a free spirit. He doesn't plan anything. He just
Mm,
goes with the flow, right? And I like to plan everything and make sure everything is, we know where we are and what we're doing. And it's interesting, the more our marriage has evolved, the more that has switched a little bit. I've
mm,
learned how to be a lot more in the unknown, and
mhm.
he's learned to schedule more in order to survive in this 3D world that we live in, right? So we have opposite points of view which complement each other. So I'll give you an example. We got married and he wanted children, I didn't.
Mm,
Right? That's
yeah.
a prime example. It's perhaps something we should have spoke about before we got married, but here we go.
Yeah.
So we've always learned through um, the word that's coming through is challenge, but now I don't see it as challenge. I see it as an opportunity to grow. Like, how can
Mm,
we navigate this so it's a win-win for us both?
mm,
Right? And also trust the other person. Like, we did end up having children, and I have to tell you that being a mother has been the most expansive experience I've ever done in my life.
Mm,
So
mm,
even though I didn't realize it, it was a gift. There was a reason we were meant to be together, right? So,
yeah. And so you said in the beginning he was would you say he was more being free spirit and going with the flow? Would you say he was more in his feminine in the beginning of the relationship and you were more in your masculine?
um, I would say in life, yes. I would say in our relationship, it was more balanced at the beginning.
Okay.
So I will, allow him to lead
Mhm.
and surrender to that. And then when we had the children, it flipped then, and I became
Mm,
very controlling. And he tried to maintain his masculinity, and then it got exhausting. And then it flipped to him becoming more in the feminine, inauthentically,
mm,
because I believe there's
yeah,
authentic masculine and feminine in all of us. But
yeah,
it's about the balance and it's the ebb and flow of the masculine and feminine within your relationship as well as within you.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'd love to talk deeper about masculine and feminine energy. Why don't we just start with for people that aren't sure what that means? Just let's just clearly define what is the masculine energy, what is the feminine energy.
So the masculine to me is very much about doing. It's about moving forward, pushing energy. It's about focus, results driven, control, not in a negative way, just controlling what needs to
Mhm.
happen, how it needs to happen, right? The
Yeah.
feminine is very much it's about leaning back, but leaning back with choice. It's about surrendering with choice. It's not about doing per se. It's about your presence. It's about actually being. It's about
Mm,
being in your strength. It's about being um what I and I'll give you an example. What I've come to realize in the feminine, the more I'm in my feminine, the more actually happens for me without me having to do it.
mm, yeah.
Not in a manipulative way, just in a truth way. This is what I need right now, right? This is where I'm at right now. And
Mm,
then the people around me are at choice to provide that or not. Because the feminine is all about receiving, the masculine is all about giving. And so there are times in our relationship when we flick that. This morning, it was all about me giving him space and time and him
mhm,
receiving that space and time. So he was in the feminine in that moment. I was in that
mhm,
masculine holding space. So it doesn't make it wrong or right. What it means is does this feel good for you? Is it authentic? Does it feel
mhm.
aligned? Right?
Right. Is it authentic? Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. That's been a lot of my recent journey because in the past, I would say I've always had pretty balanced energy with masculine and feminine, but I felt something was holding me back from really showing my authentic masculinity. And it's kind of been a whole journey. I've done many things to kind of integrate that more. Um, one of them being I had an ayahuasca ceremony a few months ago, and it was to me the word I put behind like true masculine energy is being a warrior. To me, that's probably a very deep embodiment because a warrior is always trying to get stronger and not just for themselves, but also to protect others, to provide
Yes.
for others is kind of goal
Yes.
oriented, is going to, find a way. And to me, the
Yes.
feminine is more intuitive. The feminine trusts their heart. And the way I think about integrating it is, I use my heart. My heart is going to direct me where to go, but then I use the warrior to find the path and to create the path and make things
Exactly.
happen.
I love that. I
Mhm,
love that. And even that archetype of being a warrior, that presence of being a
mhm,
warrior in the protective mode allows the feminine to surrender into her
mm,
feminine,
right, yeah.
right? You don't actually have to do anything. You can just be in that mode of
Mhm,
I'm the protector, I've got you, right? I've got you.
yeah.
Right?
And how do you know because everyone has, both energies, right? And if I know for a lot of people that, um, particularly men, might be inauthentically more in their feminine.
Mm,
Whereas some men just might be more naturally, just have more feminine energy. How can somebody discern what's like, is this, am I just naturally or authentically having this type of energy? Or is it, am I just, doing this because my maybe masculine is kind of wounded and I don't feel safe embodying that? So how can people tell like if they're being authentic to that energy?
I love this question. There's a couple of ways. The first one is you'll feel uncomfortable. You'll feel in pain if you're inauthentic. It won't feel
Mm,
right. There'll be something off. And then what I've also experienced with men in particular is that when they go against their gut instinct.
mm,
So it's not that being in your authentic energy is comfortable. It's not about comfort. It's
hmm
about your gut instinct. A warrior knows when to fight and when to be still,
yeah,
right? A warrior won't choose fight and war as the first thing,
hmm
right? Because that's not. Oh, so it's about how can you feel, and for men in particular, the gut instinct. Am I going against my gut instinct? I see the gut instinct as a barometer for whether you're on alignment or not. And for women, it's their intuition.
mm,
If I'm going against my intuition, like, for example, the conversation this morning, I heard him, I completely was compassionate with where he was at. And then I also spoke my truth about what I felt in the situation. Because had I not have done, I would have gone against my intuition
mm, yeah,
and my truth, right? So it's
hmm
really checking in with yourself. What is your truth in this moment? And listen, it changes over each season.
hmm
What I felt my feminine was a decade ago is not what it is now.
mm. How has that have
Mm.
evolved for you?
I've learned to trust it more, and I've learned that actually receiving is my birthright.
Mm,
I've learned to not feel guilty about receiving from the
mm,
masculine,
yeah.
right?
How were you able
I've,
to make that shift? Yeah, I think that's a challenge a lot of particularly women face.
yes,
Yeah.
I had to learn to allow myself to receive from myself. So take care of me, stop putting others
Mm,
first. Actually realize that it's okay for me to take time out for me. It's okay for me to spend time doing the things that please me. I
yeah.
really had to learn how to receive pleasure in
Mm,
all the ways, intimately, out shopping with friends, all the things that I love to do,
mm,
and create boundaries around that. Even if it meant saying no to my children, I had to be that role model,
hmm
right? Because I have two
yeah.
girls. And now they have really great boundaries. They take care of themselves. They have self care. They do all the things,
Yeah.
right?
And how does that energy look like in your relationship now? The polarity between those, and how does that work in your relationship? What does it look like?
I receive without conditions. So I
Mm,
don't go into this dialogue of, oh, he's made me a cup of tea and brought it me, so I need to do something
mm,
for him.
yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Mm,
Instead, what I do when I receive that cup of tea in the morning, I'm really grateful.
mm, yeah.
It's just a cup
Appreciate
of
it.
tea, but I'm really grateful.
Mm,
And I really take the time to enjoy it.
yeah.
I don't even have to say how grateful I am to him. He can feel it.
Mm. Yeah, you're allowing yourself to just be in that moment, have the joy, and feel it fully.
Yes, fully. And appreciate
Yeah.
his efforts. And the fact that he had the forethought to think that she'd really appreciate it. And it's not, Like he makes me chai. So it's not even like a just a quick, it's a process. It's like a ceremony in itself. We get a pan out, we have the masalas that are ground, we have, you boil the tea in the water. It's a process, it's a real ceremony, right?
Yeah.
So it's effortful.
Yeah.
So I get to appreciate that, and he gets to appreciate me enjoying it.
Mm, yeah. He gets to
It's worth
provide
it.
and to give, and he gets appreciated. Yeah.
It's worth it for him. So
Hmm.
every day I get a nice cup of chai.
Mm,
Not because I asked, not because I manipulated him, but because I wanted to fully appreciate receiving.
yeah. How else does the polarity of the masculine and feminine energy work? Um, I think a lot of people are confused by that. Like a lot of people hear,
Mm,
that there needs to be that polarity in relationships. And even me at times, I overthink it because I think like it always needs to be, I need to always be my masculine, she needs to always be in her feminine. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, how does
yeah,
how does that work? And like
yeah.
what does
So
that healthy polarity look like?
this is what has changed in the last 10 years for us. This question you're asking right there, because I used to think that I always need to be my feminine and I don't need to lead in anything and we should do everything. It just
Yeah.
created a really unnecessary stress on both of us because it
Mm,
was inauthentic balance. Going back to
mm,
what I said before, we both felt pain and we
mm,
were both going against my intuition and his gut instinct,
mm,
right? So what happens now is we flow in our relationship. So where he's leading, I lean back. Where I'm leading
yeah.
and I'm in my strengths, he leans back. So for example, I am really good at scheduling. That's not his forte because he's
Hmm.
so present in the moment.
Mm,
So I will do the scheduling. He's really good at surprises. He's really good at leading with random, like just let's go with the flow, right?
yeah.
So when he's doing that, I lean back, right?
Mm,
So
hmm.
I allow that leadership. So it's really about who's leading in that moment. So what are the best skills, right? I'm great at providing food. I'm great at doing all the cooking. He's great at leading with the shopping and the tidying up.
Mm,
Does that mean he's more feminine because he's doing the shopping and tidying up? No. It just means that we're supporting each other's strengths.
yeah. You're not forcing things how they're supposed to be. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly that. We came out of that whole, and what's supposed to be right for another couple is
Hmm.
not right for us. And even a different relationship, and even the decades in our relationship.
Yeah. And is that something you guys communicated of like, these are each of our strengths. This is both what we enjoy doing, or did it kind of naturally
Yeah,
just
so
flow like that?
it has, and we communicate daily. So,
Hmm.
and we do personal development together.
Hmm.
So he's done Tony Robbins with me. We do a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza. We meditate
Mm,
together. We've done a lot of Alison Armstrong. We've done things together. So, and I often get asked, how do you get your husband to do it? I don't get him to do it. I do it for me, and he sees how brilliant the effect is, and he wants to learn.
yeah.
Right. At the beginning, I used to say, you need to do this with me. And he would begrudgingly do it with me. And it just didn't work.
Mm, gotcha. I'd love to hear also. I know you mentioned I've also saw a bit of your podcast. Your relationship went through many cycles. Can you tell us some of the most challenging parts of your relationship and how are you able to break through that and evolve it?
Yeah. It, great question again. It was when I was wearing a masculine mask and I didn't even know.
Mm,
So he was the problem. He needs to grow a set of balls. What's wrong with him? And
Mm,
actually, I was walking around demasculating him with his balls, very uncomfortable.
mm,
And how it showed out, how it showed out in reality was that I was constantly criticizing him. I was constantly
mm,
telling him what he's doing wrong and how he
mm.
should do it,
Yeah.
right? All because I needed to feel safe. And I didn't trust that he
Mm,
would provide that safety for me. Because at the time he was a serial entrepreneur, he was just starting his business. We just had our first child. It was all change,
mm, mhm,
right? And we didn't have these skills at all. We didn't know anything about this. And I was the coach that knew everything,
mm,
right?
mhm,
Very ego driven. We were young and naive and very unconscious. And so the relationship was really rocky. It was very volatile. It was very triggered. Weeks of cold silences, weeks of naming and blaming, weeks of shaming.
mm.
It
Yeah,
wasn't nice. So
yeah, yeah, so you didn't feel safe and you felt you needed to kinda control the situation, and that led to you criticizing, and what was his part of it? How was he in the relationship at that time?
very quiet or volatile.
Mm,
So he would either say nothing or explode with anger.
mm, gotcha.
So it would be like a built up pressure cooker, and then it'd be like,
Mm, yeah, and when did you start, I think it was you went to I think Tony helped, but if you can, yeah, how did that shift?
that shifted because Tony did a massive 2 hour intervention where he made me realize that I'd been wearing this masculine mask for years and it was causing neck pain.
Mm,
This physical masculine, this energetic mask was causing me neck pain.
wow,
And once that lifted, the neck pain went. And it also made Atul realize, my husband, that he'd also allowed this to happen.
right,
Right. So it wasn't blaming either of us or shaming either of us. It was just throwing a light on the
right,
situation.
yeah, just
It
finding
was
the truth,
illuminating the truth. Right.
yeah,
Exactly. The truth.
and
And
you
so
said
when,
something lifted, like this weight lifted, like, how did that
yeah,
happen?
through the intervention, literally through the
Okay,
intervention, when Tony could see the truth of who I was and I felt safe.
mm, it's like you saw that, like, before, I guess you didn't recognize what you were doing, so then you were able to just bring that light of awareness to it, and that was enough to kind of
Lift
let
up.
go of it. Oh, wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
was next after you gained the awareness? Yeah, what was, the next
So
step?
there was a whole piece on forgiveness. There
Mm,
was a whole piece on forgiveness where I got down on my hands and knees and asked him for forgiveness in front of 500 people.
mm,
Asked my husband for forgiveness in front of 500 people. And he held my hand and he was stood over me. And he got down on his knees and he said, "Can't stand over you. We're a partnership. We're
mm,
equal.
wow,
I'm as much to blame as you are. I hold myself responsible for this as much as you do.
yeah,
So we
wow,
forgive
beautiful.
each other and we start again. We just
Mm,
start again." Right?
beautiful. And then what did the shift look like? So you said before you didn't feel the safety, so you felt like you needed control.
Mm.
What happened after that?
I started to trust him and
Mm,
let him take control. And even if it wasn't exactly how I wanted it, trust that
mm,
actually the fun in the unknown, it actually ended up being better.
okay, yeah.
Right. So I
And
started to be,
did you still hear that kind of critics in your mind and you
yes,
kinda just let it go? You just didn't give it energy?
I didn't give it, I was aware of it and I was like, no, that's the old identity. That is not
Mm,
who I am. It's
yeah,
not the truth of who I am. I'm love and I'm in love with this relationship and this man.
yeah,
And I know his intention is to honor and serve me and protect me.
Mm,
Always
yeah.
has been. Just didn't see it.
Mm,
He stuck
yeah.
around. That was in our 22nd year of marriage.
Yeah. So it took intentional kind of effort or intentional intention to just to trust him. It was, there was
Yes.
part of you still maybe resisting, but yeah, it kind of took some intention to, okay, I'm gonna fully trust him and allow things to play out. Has it gotten easier over time after you made that shift? Like, is there still part of you, like part that's still part of the mind that's still kind of finding fault in things or criticizing, or does it become easier
All the
the more you
time.
trust?
All the time. There's
Yeah.
always, it's definitely easier. It's not as often. And the only time that it happens now is when I've not taken care of me. So it's interesting. If I'm tired or
Mm,
hungry,
mhm,
it's like this wild, crazy woman appears.
mm, okay, yeah,
And what's beautiful is that he doesn't get triggered in the same way anymore. He's like, just go rest. Let me get you some food.
mm, yeah, he knows how to handle it. He knows what it is.
He knows
Yeah,
what it
so
is before I do sometimes,
mm,
and that's actually, it's got that in itself has got less because I've started to take care of me and I make
yeah,
sure that I'm responsible for my health, my body. And even
yeah,
more so in this season in our lives, as I've gone into the menopause, even more so has that been highlighted,
mm,
right? So yeah,
yeah,
we know each other more, and I know when he's hungry now. So I'm like, just eat, babe, just
yeah,
eat, because he
and what
starts banging things around. It's like,
well, that's can be very obvious then, not so subtle.
it's like banging pans and just eat, babe. Take a minute. Here's a cup of tea.
And what has it given him? So, like, you started trusting him more, allowing him to lead, what has that given to him and allowed him to become?
Oh, his business took off. Everything. Both
Mm,
our businesses, 10x, everything,
wow. Really?
everything. Leadership with our girls, everything. Making
Wow.
decisions with clarity. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything. Our intimate relationship. Like our girls are like, can you two get a room? Not like, why? Like, you've been married 30 years. It's not really appropriate for you to be behaving like we get asked all the time when we're out. Like, how long have you guys been together? How do you keep it so intimate? Like, we still
Mm,
hold hands, we kiss, like, and
wow,
when we tell
beautiful.
them we've been together 36 years, they're like, how have you done that? Because
Mm,
we're intentional. We in
mm,
keeping the polarity.
mm,
I don't feel bad when he wants to carry all the bags anymore,
yeah,
right? I actually go, wow, that's my man.
beautiful. And what's the shift? So it sounds like there's one of the main shifts you had to make was just trusting him and surrendering. What was the shift that he had to make?
Knowing that it wasn't personal.
Mm. Ah,
So
okay, not
whenever
taking fault, not
not
taking responsibility.
not taking sometimes the way I say things personally,
Mm,
actually getting curious, actually learning to listen, really listen,
mm,
giving
yeah.
me the time I need.
Mm,
And the biggest one, if I can't speak on his behalf, but from what he's told me, is realizing he doesn't have to fix it. He can actually
mm,
just let me, just listening in his presence, it
mm,
makes me the happiest person on the planet.
mm,
Sometimes he can
yeah.
just hold me and just his body grounds me.
Mm, yeah.
Right? That's all. Guys make it really complex and
Mhm,
the overthinking.
mhm,
He realized
yeah.
his worth when he realized that his presence alone is enough.
Mm. You didn't need to, like, fix something and
Anything.
come up with a solution. Yeah.
His presence alone is enough. And if I need his advice, I'll say, what do you think?
Mm, yeah. Would you is that kind of advice you'd give generally to anybody, whether in any stage relationship of, Yeah, especially as a man, just to not, because yeah, I think men can tend to steer into just always giving advice. Here's the solution.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
the key advice I give to all my male clients is the solution is not to fix what you think is the problem. The
Mm,
real problem is that she just needs to be heard.
mm,
That's the problem. And
mhm,
your solution is as simple as just hearing her, but with your whole heart, your whole energy, because you'll feel it,
mm. Yeah.
right?
So really, really listening.
Just really listening that and know that that's enough. Because sometimes when I like, I need to like do something.
Yeah. What do you mean? Just listen. Then
Listen,
what?
then what? The top tip I can give you is you've done a good job when she goes, oh, okay, thanks.
Mm,
She may not
yeah.
even say thanks. This sigh is the signal that she's complete. Oh, thanks, babe.
Mm, yeah. It's all she needed.
That's it. You're
Mm,
amazing. Thanks, babe. Oh, and you will
beautiful.
witness her face soften.
Mm, yeah.
That's your signal. Don't say anything, don't do anything, just that. That's your signal you've achieved the goal. You've solved the problem. Because the problem is hers, not the one you think.
Hmm.
It's
Wow.
often not what she's talking about.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love hearing about your relationship and about 36 years. That is, congratulations. That is
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah. So Tony talks about, different phases in relationships. And I'm curious, have you seen those phases happen in your 36 years, or are relationships, more complicated than that?
I see it as seasons. So
Hmm.
I feel like our relationship, there's definitely been decades. So the first decade, the second, the third, and now we're on to the fourth. But I see it as seasons. So it's almost like there are moments where there's winter, there's spring, summer,
Hmm.
fall, like that. I see it cyclic. So,
Mm,
there are moments when we're brilliant. There are moments when it's just dormant. And then there are moments when we're building and we're creating. And then there are moments when we're reaping the benefits of that and having an incredible summer, right? But it's
mm.
cyclic. It's
And what
very much.
season are you in right now?
I would say, I would say we're in the transition between spring and summer. We've done a
Mm,
lot of building work and now we're
yeah.
really enjoying the fruits of our labor, right?
Mm, beautiful. Are there any particular challenges you kind of foresee in this season, or is it hard to
So
tell right now?
it's interesting because what we're realizing now is like like we have lived through so many life challenges. Um, for example, the first year that we got married, my mum passed suddenly. She developed cancer and passed suddenly. So that I was 22, mum was 47. It was completely out of the blue. We got married in the August. Mum fell ill in the November. She got diagnosed in February and passed in March. So it was very quick, right? So that was a challenging thing. Then we had 5 miscarriages. There were so many different things, his business up and down. There's so many things even now that we are navigating with life. And the more opportunities we have, challenges in our lives, the more opportunities we get to be even solider. And so, what
Mhm,
we're finding in this season now is that what would have taken us weeks to recover from takes minutes,
mm,
maximum hours,
yeah.
because we have the
Mm,
tools and the strategies now to manage it. We understand
mm,
each other.
yeah.
We
Amazing.
not only do we understand each other, we understand ourselves. So I'm able to say to him, I'm feeling this. This is what I need. He's able to say, I'm feeling upset and I need to work through this with you and I need to express it. So we don't take it personally anymore. It's not. And if we are triggered, we actually say, I'm triggered right now. I'm kind of figuring out why I'm triggered. So we hold the trigger as our responsibility, not the other person's,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So in terms of, yes, there's always going to be challenges in life, but we're well equipped to deal with them now. And I'm excited to know that we will continually develop
Yep.
in our abilities, right?
Yeah.
So recovery time will get less and less and less until we can just laugh about it. That's the end.
Mm. Yeah. It sounds like your communication just got it's continuously getting, like, just you're masterful, between the both
Yes.
of you. You're both knowing understanding each other, understanding yourselves, and knowing how to communicate that. So, kind of quickly resolve any problems that come up.
Yeah. We consciously communicate. You've nailed it. We consciously communicate now. And even when we F up, we give each other grace much quicker because
Mm.
we still F up. Because there are moments when we're both hungry and tired at the same
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. Mm.
Right.
Beautiful. Well, I think anybody listening to you, you've been 36 years in marriage, you're still passionate. That's kind of a dream scenario of anybody, starting a relationship or even someone that's looking to date. So kind of backtracking a bit, somebody that's much earlier
Mm.
in either looking for a relationship or just starting a relationship. I think big questions people are always thinking about. One is, how do they know if it's the right person? How do they know if that's the right person to build a relationship with? I mean, that's something that I find myself overthinking in past relationships. And yeah, I'm curious on your thoughts. How is it for you choosing him?
It's interesting this because I always knew he was the one. He's been my best
Mm,
friend all my life.
mm,
So I dated other guys, but I knew it wouldn't be them. I knew he was the one.
mm.
And it was a knowingness inside of me. I just knew.
Yeah,
Was
like
it
kind of like
naivety?
intuitive.
Yeah, exactly. Intuitive.
Mm,
Was it naive? Probably. We didn't do any at that time. There was no relationship skills or seminars or anything that we were aware of. Yeah, that were in our field, right? But how I would how I would recommend it to somebody who's dating now and who's you said something, Alex, and it was interesting, not overthink it.
mhm.
That
It's a hard one.
that right there. Matters of the heart need to be dealt with the heart.
Mm. Like trust that intuitive
Trust.
knowing. Yeah,
Yeah. And if they're not the one, then they're the one that you learned something from.
yeah, the one you needed at that time.
Time, right?
Hmm.
I
Yep.
know certainly I spent a lot of time in my marriage wondering whether he was the one, even though intuitively I knew I would create stories. Well, he can't be the one because this happened and that happened. And if he was the one, he'd know that that's what I needed.
Mm. Yeah.
And make assumptions, even just, and you mentioned it, communication, just speaking your truth, just saying, I'm confused. I don't know whether you're the one or not.
Mm.
I'm working through it. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that with the new person you're with, journaling it out.
Hmm.
Because the truth
Yeah.
is your heart knows, right?
Yeah, 2 questions I still wanted to ask you that I'd be really curious. One of them is gonna be, you mentioned, like, intuition and gut, and I think the part I'm confused more is the gut. Like, I think I have intuition, like, and for me, what that looks like is and, something I want to get better at is kinda having more of a listening more to my gut. But for me, what my intuition looks like, is whether I have a question, unsure about something, I quiet my mind, I kind of get into a meditative state. And then there's like a voice, like kind of a clear voice that comes like from the back of my head. And it only comes when it's very, I have to be very still and clear.
Yes.
It's great, it's great because I get that clear answer. Only thing is it's not something I could do, like, in the moment, right? Because I need to, maybe go sit by myself and really quiet my
Mm,
mind to get into it. And I'd love to either access that in a kind of, I don't know, quicker way where I don't know, and I don't know if that's what you mean by gut feeling, but it sounds like you differentiated the 2 between intuition and gut feeling. Can you
yeah.
explain those?
Yeah. So the way I see it and the way I've experienced it for myself and my clients is intuition is from the heart, and it's a feminine led signal, and
Mhm,
it's like a whisper, exactly how you've mentioned it. It's like a
mm,
whisper in the back of your mind. The way I access it quickly is now, you're right, you need quiet, but I use the breath to get there quicker. So I
mm,
focus on my breath, and within seconds,
mm,
I'm in that meditative state and I can literally say to somebody, even if I'm in a room with somebody and they're asking me a question, give me a second, let me just go inwards to
mm,
get the truth, the real answer.
yeah,
I right. And I make people just wait a moment while I get
mm,
the answer.
mm,
Right. So I
beautiful,
go inwards. So that's
yeah,
that gut instinct. What I have learned is this is useful when you're in fight, flight, or freeze. It's the one that keeps you safe, and it comes from your gut. It's
mm,
almost something that you don't have to think about. You just instinctively do it.
mm. It's like something that
Right?
can just quickly scan the room and just knows if there's any threats, if things are safe,
Exactly
anything is
that.
off. Mm,
Exactly that.
yeah, mm,
Exactly that.
gotcha,
Just you
cool.
see, it's not even got a voice. It's a
Mm,
knowingness in you. You're
yeah,
doing it without even realizing you're doing it.
mm, yeah, it's kind of a subconscious thing that just
It's a
happens.
subconscious thing, and
That your
you
body
can bring
knows.
your body knows. It's the warrior in you. The warrior
Mm,
knows where's safe and where's not.
mm, yeah,
Right? If you were to be, attacked or something, your gut instinct would protect you. You wouldn't have
mm,
to think how to fight,
right. Oh, okay, I
or
see.
you wouldn't
Yeah.
have to think whether it's safer for you to run.
Mm, yeah. I love that distinction because I was always confused. Yeah, what? Because I think a lot of people they say intuition, they kind of they also call it the gut, and I think it's very great to have both separated. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it's really the difference between your masculine and feminine,
Mm,
right? Like, I'll give you an example. I used my gut instinct the other day when I was walking back from the tube station, and there's one way you can go, which is up some steps, and there's some archways, and it was quite dark, and there's another way that's lit that you can walk around. And usually I would go up the steps, and it was dark, and I saw this man in the archways, and I was literally going up the steps. I saw him. I didn't even have to access anything. I turned around, walked back down, walked the lit way,
mm,
right? It
yeah,
wasn't even there was no, I didn't have to access anything.
yeah. Your
That
body just
was,
knew.
my body just knew, right?
Yeah.
Whereas my intuition, I will sometimes, um, like, say, for example, my daughter might say to me, Mum, let's go to this class today. We go boxing together, we train together, and it won't fit in with the time that I want. My intuition, I go inwards and I go, what's best for me? What's
Mm,
best for me? And in the past, I would have overridden it and gone with her, even though that wasn't a good time for me. Right.
mm,
Or now I go inwards and I go, what do I want?
mm,
Do I want to go
yeah.
have fun with her in this moment, or do I want to refuel and take care of me? So
Yeah.
it's not that either answer is wrong or right. It's where are we accessing the information from? And is it authentic for us in that moment?
Right. And it sounds like I would imagine, I mean, for me, but I'm curious to you, for you, is it something that you've been able to access kind of quicker over time? Like, is it a practice to be able to
Yeah,
listen to that?
100% practice. And it's also a
Yeah.
practice to notice when I didn't listen.
Mm, yeah. I'm sure things didn't go so well. That happened. Yeah, for me, the few times I don't listen to my intuition, it's always
Always is a disaster. The
yeah.
few times that I went to the gym and I really wanted to stay at home and rest, we never had a good time because
Mm,
I was then resentful to her of me
mm,
being with her when it was actually nothing to do with her and it was me trying to be a pleasing mum.
yeah. I love that distinction. That's going to be, I think, helpful for a lot of people, but definitely helpful for me. And that's something I'm going to practice more of. Trying to just, as I may be speaking with somebody or in a situation, just going into my breath and just accessing my intuition right now. And I think, yeah, the breath is a great way to quickly get you into that stillness. Yeah, beautiful. I love that. One last question I have that I'm just really curious about. You talked about manifestation throughout your podcast, and in particular, if somebody, not saying just for myself, but maybe for me too, if somebody is looking for a relationship, how can what would you say about manifestation and using that as a tool to, you know, to attract the person you want to attract?
It's a great question. What's coming to mind is I would say get clear on who you want to be. Get clear
Mm,
on who you do the work before you manifest. Because what you don't want to do is manifest your energetic match if you're not the person you want to be.
mm, yeah.
Right. And
Mm,
it doesn't mean to say you can't grow in a relationship. Of course you can. But be the person you want to be, live by the values you want to be live by. If you want somebody who follows their intuition and their gut regularly, you have to be that.
all right.
Otherwise, you're going to attract a pleaser because you are a pleaser,
Yeah.
right? You have to be the
Mm,
energetic frequency of not your ideal partner, but who you want to be in a
mm,
partnership,
yeah. It's
right?
not just
So
about thinking about what you want. It's really the work is becoming who you want.
yes, yes. And get clear on your values, get clear on what matters to you. And then the way I see this is I just put an order in. I just say, this is my ideal match. This is who I would love to meet. And I surrender it to you. And then I go about my life having fun. I go about
Mm,
my life enjoying me. Because if I
mm,
want somebody to enjoy me, I better be good at enjoying me first.
mm. Yeah. Not waiting for somebody to allow you to feel joyful, allow you to complete you, just becoming that and
Exactly.
owning it.
Just
Yeah.
and then expect the unexpected. Because when
Mm,
you're in a frequency of joy, you're in a frequency of love, you're much closer to source.
mm,
And therefore, when you're much closer to source, the time it takes for your manifestation to come is a lot shorter.
mm. Yeah.
Right? Being your authentic self, being your authentic feelings. It's okay to feel sad as long as it's authentic and you quickly move out of it. You don't sit in it. Right? Joy, love, bliss. Like everybody wants to be around somebody that's joyful and happy and content and not
Hmm.
needy and desperate.
Yeah. So it's really all about becoming that, be getting in that frequency yourself, and then the rest kind of becomes effortless. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Beautiful.
I've had so many clients that have had their partners magically appear,
Mm.
magically appear from nowhere, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love the conversation. I loved hearing about your relationship. I think that's so much can learn. So many people can learn from your experience. Is there any last piece of advice you'd give to somebody that's, whether they're early in the relationship, later on in the relationship, and any last piece of advice you'd want to give?
Yeah, something that I've learned later on, and it was in waves, it came and it went, and that was learn to laugh with each other. Just have
Mm,
fun. Don't take it so
mm,
seriously. I wish somebody had said that to me.
Mm,
don't take it so seriously. We went to a comedy club the other day and it was hilarious. We laughed and we're still laughing about it, right?
mhm.
Just everybody F's up. Can you give grace and just laugh about it? It's
Yeah,
okay.
don't take it so
But
seriously. Yeah.
don't, it's what's more important, being right or being in love? Like,
Mm,
I
mm,
always say choose love over being right.
mm. Beautiful. And if people wanted to learn more about you, maybe work with you, where can people find more of your work?
So my website is dimpleglobal.com and I'm on all the platforms and it's just my name, Dimple Thakrar. Thakras, Thakrai. It'd be my pleasure. Reach out. I also have a book on Amazon, it's a bestseller for men. Loads of women have read it and it's blown their minds as well. So yeah,
Beautiful. I'll leave this all linked in the show notes. All right.
thank you
Thank you
so much.
so much, Dimple. It was a pleasure having you on today.
Take care, Alex.
All right. Take care.